Adolf Hitler, one of history's most infamous and consequential figures, remains a subject of intense study, debate, and horror. His actions during the 20th century led to the deaths of millions, sparked a devastating global conflict, and reshaped the geopolitical landscape in ways that still reverberate today. From his early life to his dictatorial rule, Hitler's journey is marked by ideological extremism, ruthless ambition, and a legacy of destruction. In this video, we will explore Adolf Hitler's life and actions through multiple lenses, his religious views, health issues, and ultimately, the lasting impact of his rule on the world. Welcome to this comprehensive look into the life of Adolf Hitler on the Aschool History channel. Early life and formative years. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, Austria, to Alois Hitler, an authoritarian figure who worked as a customs official, and Clara Hitler, a deeply religious Catholic. Hitler's early years were marked by his troubled relationship with his father, who was abusive and had little affection for his son. His mother, however, was a loving and supportive figure, which might have influenced Hitler's later tendency to idealize maternal qualities. Though his parents were religious, Adolf's own relationship with religion would become complex and evolving. Hitler was raised in a Catholic household, and there were early indications of religious education and exposure to Catholic practices. However, as he grew older and left home to move to Vienna, his spiritual life became more fragmented. Despite his mother's devout Catholicism, Hitler rejected organized religion altogether, a rejection that would later be a significant part of his ideological framework. In his time in Vienna, Hitler developed many of the ideas that would later define his political beliefs, including a profound sense of German nationalism and growing anti-Semitism. Influenced by the socio-political upheaval of the time and the rise of extreme nationalist movements, Hitler formulated his belief that the German people, whom he viewed as racially superior, were destined to dominate Europe. His rejection of religion became closely tied to his belief in the supremacy of the Aryan race, and the fusion of these ideas would lead to a dangerous and deadly path later in life. Hitler's religious views. As Hitler moved further into his political career, his stance on religion became a matter of political strategy rather than personal belief. He rejected Christianity, particularly for its emphasis on mercy and compassion, which he viewed as weaknesses. He viewed Christianity as a religion that promoted submissiveness, and he expressed disdain for its values of love and kindness, considering them detrimental to the survival of the fittest, a principle rooted in his warped understanding of Darwinism. Hitler's relationship with the Catholic Church and Protestant denominations was one of manipulation. Publicly, he praised Christian values when it suited his goals of consolidating power, even appropriating Christian symbolism to further the Nazi regime's agenda. He coined the term German Christianity, which aimed to make Christianity more compatible with Nazi ideology by eliminating Jewish influences in the Bible and promoting Aryan supremacy. Despite this public facade, Hitler's private feelings about religion were far more cynical. He viewed religion, particularly Christianity, as a force that obstructed his vision of an authoritarian, racially homogeneous state. The Catholic Church, along with other religious institutions, was seen as an obstacle to his plans. However, due to the political importance of maintaining the Church's influence in German society, Hitler adopted a strategic approach. He recognized the power the Church held over the masses and made efforts to appease and control religious leaders for the sake of political expediency. But Hitler's ultimate aim was the eventual destruction of Christianity. His goal was to replace it with a new state-driven religion that would serve the needs of the Nazi regime, rooted in nationalism and Aryan ideology. According to historians, this plan was put on hold until after the war, as Hitler needed the Church's support for the war effort and his consolidation of power. As the war turned against Germany, however, this ambition became clearer. He envisioned a world where the Church's influence was eradicated, replaced by Nazi doctrines that emphasized racial purity and Germanic paganism. Hitler's health and personal struggles. As Germany plunged deeper into war, Adolf Hitler's health began to deteriorate. Though he had always been a figure of remarkable energy and stamina, by the late stages of the war, his physical and mental health were compromised by a variety of ailments. Reports from his contemporaries and medical experts suggest that Hitler suffered from multiple health problems, including chronic digestive issues, Parkinson's disease, and potentially syphilis. Hitler's health issues were compounded by his reliance on drugs. His personal physician, Dr. Theodor Morell, administered a range of medications, including amphetamines, barbiturates, and other stimulants. This medical regimen contributed to his increasingly erratic behavior, poor decision-making, and intense mood swings. His addiction to these substances became more pronounced during the war years, especially after 1942, and is often linked to his increasing detachment from reality. Though Hitler presented himself as a model of health and discipline, his personal habits were inconsistent with his public persona. He adopted a largely vegetarian diet in the 1930s, motivated by both health concerns and ideological beliefs about purity and fitness. He abstained from alcohol after 1932, although he occasionally consumed wine or beer in social settings. Hitler also avoided smoking for most of his life, despite being a heavy smoker in his youth. As his health deteriorated, so did his leadership. His decisions became more erratic, and his refusal to acknowledge the military realities on the Eastern Front and his stubborn insistence on holding positions that were clearly untenable led to disastrous consequences for Nazi Germany. His health issues were also exacerbated by the stress of managing the war and dealing with multiple fronts. The dark legacy of his actions. Adolf Hitler's actions during his time in power were catastrophic on an unprecedented scale. He engineered the most brutal genocide in history, leading to the deaths of approximately 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. The Nazis also targeted Roma, Gypsies, disabled individuals, political dissidents, and various other groups, resulting in an estimated 19.3 million civilian and POW deaths. The systematic extermination of Jews and other marginalized groups was carried out in concentration and extermination camps such as Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor. Mass shootings, forced labor, and starvation were other methods of mass murder used by the Nazis. Hitler's racist and xenophobic ideologies fueled these atrocities, as he believed that the Aryan race was superior to all others, and that Jews, Slavs, and other minorities were inferior. Beyond the horrors of the Holocaust, Hitler's militaristic ambitions also led to the outbreak of World War II, which caused widespread devastation across Europe. His policies of conquest and domination led to the deaths of tens of millions of people and the destruction of entire cities. The war's toll on the Soviet Union was particularly brutal, with millions of civilians and soldiers perishing in the conflict. The final days and Hitler's impact. By 1945, the tide of war had turned decisively against Hitler. Germany was facing defeat on both the Eastern and Western fronts. Hitler, unwilling to accept the collapse of his regime, retreated to his bunker in Berlin. His physical health was in rapid decline, and his once dominant leadership was replaced by paranoia, delusion, and inflexibility. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler took his own life in the Führer bunker, choosing to die by suicide rather than face capture. The fall of Hitler marked the end of the Nazi regime, but the damage he had done to Europe and the world was irreversible. The aftermath of the war led to the division of Germany and the rise of the Cold War, as the world divided into competing superpowers, the United States and its allies versus the Soviet Union. Hitler's death did not erase the impact of his rule. The world was left to grapple with the moral, political, and physical consequences of his reign. Entire communities were destroyed, and Europe's landscape would never be the same. The rise of the Nazi Party and the legacy of Adolf Hitler also contributed to the foundation of the modern state of Israel, as Jews sought refuge from the atrocities they had faced. Conclusion: Adolf Hitler's life and legacy are a dark chapter in the history of humanity. His actions led to widespread suffering and loss of life on an unimaginable scale. From his twisted racial ideologies to his role in starting a global conflict, Hitler's impact was catastrophic. The world's response to his reign, however, also marked a turning point, leading to the establishment of international institutions dedicated to human rights and the prevention of future atrocities. The study of Adolf Hitler's life and deeds serves as an important reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, bigotry, and hate. It is a call for vigilance against extremism and a reminder that the atrocities of the past must never be forgotten. We must continue to educate future generations about the horrors of World War II and the Holocaust so that we never repeat the mistakes of the past. Thank you for watching this in-depth exploration of Adolf Hitler's complex legacy on the Aschool History channel. If you found this video insightful, please like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth content on history's most influential figures. Let's continue to learn from history to shape a more just and compassionate world.